Cathy O'Brien was born into a multi-generational incest-based family and was groomed since birth to be a candidate for mind control. Her pedophile father sold Cathy into the CIA's MKUltra Project Monarch, where she would be owned by the late Senator Robert Byrd. As Cathy got older, her programming became more sophisticated, and she became a presidential model and was prostituted to several prominent politicians and former presidents. She was issued covert assignments in the upper echelon of global politics and used as a drug mule and courier. Days before Cathy's planned ritual sacrifice at Bohemian Grove, her transport was intercepted by intelligence insider Mark Phillip, and a target was put on their lives. With Mark's background and expertise in the understanding of the mind, he helped Cathy uncover her memories and facilitate healing on a soul level. You're tuning into the Counterculture Mom Show. I'm your host, Tina Griffin, and this week your life will be shaken to the core as we address the demonic depravity of MKUltra, what it is, who's behind it, and why. I am with Cathy O'Brien, survivor and victim of MKUltra Project Monarch. Cathy, thank you so much for being on the program today and being raw and real.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I cannot wait to dig in deep. I know that you're in a remote location, so the internet might come in and out, but your voice is loud and clear. I just want to preface this by saying when I lived in Hollywood and did film and TV for a decade, I heard a lot of talk and chatter about Bohemian Grove. I knew where it was. I didn't know anyone personally there. I didn't know anyone that survived what went on there, which is totally demonic. So just to have you on today to help expose what's going on is also something I feel very passionate about.
Thank you for the opportunity to bring this truth to light. People need this information. Knowledge is our defense against mind control, and it's been imposed on the global population. So we all, as a great awakening, continues to accelerate, it's good to have the knowledge. Truth makes us free. It really makes us free.
Now, Cathy, you're one of the very few survivors of this heinous monstrosity. Since recovering your mind, you've been a government whistleblower for the last 30 years, making it your mission to bring awareness and healing. And though your congressional testimony was censored for reasons of national security, Cathy continues to speak out against several different crimes against humanity, including human trafficking, the infiltration of our education systems, suppressed global agendas, and rampant mind control within the media. Unbelievable. This absolutely needs to be addressed. Cathy, you're one of the few survivors of Project Monarch. How and why were you brought into that program to begin with?
I was targeted for MKUltra mind control. It was a CIA project that was already in place. It was not an experiment. MKUltra was in place in the early 60s. Project Paperclip brought in the Nazi and fascist scientists. We didn't win World War II. We brought it over here. And with it, we brought information on mind control. The Hitler-Himmler research into how to control a mind found that children who are sexually abused prior to age 5 would be suffering from a dissociative identity disorder. It's because our brains are amazing. They automatically compartmentalize events of trauma so the rest of the mind can function normally. The downside of that amazing protection thing is that the neuron pathways in the brain actually shut down. And as neuron pathways in the brain continue to shut down as abuse occurs again and again, and different abuses are added to that, then free thought is lost. And without free thought, the subconscious is open to manipulation. And it causes a heightened suggestibility, perfect for mind control. Since I was born into a multi-generational incest-based family, I was targeted for mind control, for this ongoing project that targets the multi-generational aspect. So I experienced what the pedophile agenda that we're all experiencing today is really all about. It's a mind control agenda. And what I experienced, my father was granted immunity from prosecution if he would agree to sell me into MKUltra mind control.
Okay, wait, say that again. What happened if your father was promised what if he would sell you into MKUltra?
Immunity from prosecution. It shows how our justice system was already being corrupted under the guise of so-called national security. Because when Project Paperclip occurred and when the CIA was formed, so too was the 1947 National Security Act. And it was put in place to cover up the New World Order agenda that we're all experiencing today. So ultimately, this is about the global reset that we're experiencing, why our children are being targeted, because they want a compliant society, a robotic society that does exactly what they want. The New World Order agenda is a slave society agenda. And once we understand that simple aspect of it, then knowledge is our defense against mind control. And that's where we win. That's where they lose. We just got to get the information out there so that we know who the enemy is and what to protect ourselves against.
You are talking my language and you're giving me a depth to the information that I had from being an insider in Hollywood, working on movie sets, film, TV. I even went to the Playboy Mansion, fully clothed. I was like an undercover FBI agent in Hollywood to learn what I learned today. But you're putting a depth to this that I never knew existed, to this depravity. You're helping me connect the dots, Major. Okay, so you were incest-born child. And your dad was promised immunity if he would sell you to the elites. Can you give us a little more info on that? And then what picture is this of your childhood right here?
That's my mother, and that was before the right to remain silent that I was subjected to within the Catholic Church, which was also Holy Communion at the time. But the Catholic Church was heavily involved in MKUltra mind control. As a matter of fact, the CIA was taking what the Hitler-Himmler research had found and combining it with what the Catholics had learned about the effects of trauma on the human mind. Yeah. Because ultimately we need to understand that trauma is the basis of mind control. So as trauma is being imposed on society, you know, whether it's the school shootings, the mass shootings that are going on, whether it's mind control masked as a virus, that is trauma. And that is being used to control the population and make them compliant and cooperating with the so-called global reset. We don't need to comply with it. We just need to realize that we're by far the majority and realize what this agenda entails, how our justice system has been corrupted. My mother's father ran a Blue Masonic Lodge, and a Blue Masonic Lodge has a lot of politicians in it. And among those politicians was Gerald Ford. He was just a local politician at the time when I was a young child. But when my father was caught sending child pornography of me through the U.S. mails, that was Gerald Ford who approached him and told him he could receive immunity from prosecution if he would sell me into MKUltra mind control. Of course, this is the same Gerald Ford that went on to become the unelected president of the United States. He headed the Warren Commission that covered up the Kennedy assassination. And that's when this global slave society agenda took a strong hold in the United States. But as Gerald Ford's political career escalated, so too did my victimization in MKUltra mind control until I was used on a White House Pentagon level. I was right there in the Washington, D.C. swamp being trafficked among these perpetrators, the same ones that are ushering in the New World Order today. It's the same people over and over again. And when we realize this is a planned agenda that's been going on since Hitler, and realize that Hitler and George Bush and Joe Biden term it the New World Order, it is a slave society agenda. Our children are being targeted. Yes, that's the most important point that we need to know so that we can protect them going forward.
Yes, I have 5 Post-it notes filled with questions, and I have to have you on for like 42 episodes. But starting today, can you give us some bullet points of the following questions that I've got for people that might be new to the information that you're saying right now? First of all, Catholic Church, you've heard over the last couple of decades, all these kids that are now saying in their 40s, 50s, they've been abused. How is that all connected with MKUltra of what you're talking about? Because that makes complete sense to me on what's happening there.
Yes, as soon as my father agreed to sell me into the project, he was flown to Boston, Massachusetts, where he was trained by Cardinal Law. That's the same Cardinal Law who was the head of the Catholic child abuse scandal, head of protecting the pedophile priests and the pedophilia that was being deliberately generated within the church for mind control purposes, because the Catholic Church wanted to be the one world church in the new world order. Satanism is their trauma base that they use. It's just a reversal of the Catholic Mass. And as soon as my father was trained by Cardinal Law on how to raise me in the project, I was subjected to occult ritual as a trauma base from that point going forward. Because blood traumas are extreme. It makes the conscious mind take flight and leaves the subconscious wide open to being easily led. They needed heightened suggestibility, and those were the traumas that the Catholic Church brought into the picture that the CIA was using to create a powerful form of mind control, not only of individuals, but how to control the nation and ultimately the world for the New World Order.
That absolutely makes sense to me. I've been researching the New World Order since I was 16. I received
Wow.
a VHS copy of the Clinton Chronicles in church by an older gentleman that said, God told me to give this to you. It was a week after I placed my faith in Christ. And I grabbed the VHS copy, most of my friends out partying, drinking, and doing other stuff. And I'm watching this scandalous garbage that Bill Clinton did while he was Arkansas governor. And I'm like, this is going to be an interesting next couple of decades. What you're saying is giving me chills all over. Okay. Catholic Church trauma. We've got trauma because of MKUltra that's being done between politicians, young children. My question is, can you go into detail without too much detail, just because I don't know who's all watching? Give us a glimpse of your world when you were under this MKUltra.
Well, we're going to find that any names that I do mention are the same families over and over again. You mentioned the Clintons. They were heavily involved in my victimization. And once my father sold me into the project, I was often taken to Mackinac Island, Michigan, which is where the governor's mansion is located. And at that time, George Romney was the governor of Michigan. That's Mitt Romney's father. So again, we're seeing the multi-generational aspect. He was very much interested in taking what the Catholics knew about mind control and making a more powerful technological form within the Mormon church. So he was very much a part of that aspect, and it helps us to understand about Mitt Romney. When we look at the multi-generational aspects in some of these families, like the Bush Clinton dynasties and Mitt Romney, I was also brutally sexually assaulted by Pierre Trudeau. Pierre Trudeau is the father of Justin Trudeau.
Oh.
Whether he's the biological father or not, you know, since Margaret Trudeau was an MKUltra mind control sex slave, it's who knows who the biological father is. But he was raised by a pedophile who is skilled, highly skilled in MKUltra mind control, particularly the Jesuit end. So, you know, the more we know, the more we see what's going on today is the same people, the same handful. It's inexcusable that we allow their evil, dark force, low vibration agenda to affect our brilliant minds and to inhibit our free thought, free will, strength of spirit, and ability to stand up for the things that we believe in. It's up to us to reclaim our sovereignty, just like I did. I mean, we can all heal. It's within us all to just remember who we really are, why we're here right now, so that we can live the love we are and stop this dark force agenda being imposed on our children.
We are in a cancel culture. Is your money safe? Are you holding it in a place that shares your conservative Christian values? If your funds are not with a financial institution that shares your values, they may be in jeopardy if you are not in agreement with their secular values. American Christians could lose billions of charitable donations without even knowing it. Capstone Legacy Foundation's charter ensures that we follow donor intent. Please go to capstonelegacy.org to help us see if you need to change where you are holding your assets for planned giving. That's capstonelegacy.org.
I have 3 more Post-it notes to add to the mix. Can you give us a rundown of some family names that are involved with MKUltra mind control, either the last couple generations or this generation here, of who needs to be behind bars?
Absolutely. They're all named in my testimony for Congress, Transformation of America, which is censored under national security. When intelligence insider Mark Phillips, who's working on the highest levels of mind sciences, saw how information on pertinent mind brain function, something as simple as dealing with trauma by picking up a pen and writing out the trauma. It's a simple thing that takes emotional trauma, even if it's compartmentalized with the neuron pathways shut down, it will actually shift that information over to logic because it takes the logic part of the brain to move a pen. We got to get that back in our school systems. It's a way of critically analyzing and consciously processing information. Very important. So he told me to write out my memory. I healed myself from within because it's within us all to heal. But I picked up that pen. He told me the pen is mightier than the sword. And I began writing out that memory. As quickly as I wrote it out, it was investigated and verified by clean members of law enforcement, particularly U.S. Customs, the border guards who saw the human trafficking and drug trafficking pouring across the border to fund this New World Order agenda. It's their funding mechanism, which is why the border was flung back open 2020. As quickly as elections were stolen, they had to get their funding mechanism back, and that border was flung back open. But back then, U.S. Customs, William Von Raab, head of Customs, he's brilliant man, had validated it, and so had Secret Service. They all had a point of reference for it. Mark wasn't the only one in intelligence who was outraged over what he was seeing being done, how information was being suppressed from society. Knowledge is our defense against mind control. It was being suppressed, and people were being manipulated. He was so outraged that he rescued my daughter and I right out of the swamp and handed me keys to my own mind. He was the only one who had the fortitude and wherewithal to be able to just lift us out of that situation, intercept me on my way to Bohemian Grove, and hand me those keys. But those keys are easy to self-apply, and it's information we all should know because we all need to deal with trauma these days and reclaim our free thought, just as I did.
What are some of the families that should be behind bars? We've got the Clintons, which I have stacks and stacks of paperwork because I've been studying them for years, printed off that you can no longer find online, people. I printed them off when I was at college in California. I'm like, this isn't going to be here forever. Reams and reams of paper. So I've got dirt on the Clintons, so we know they're one of them. You said the Bush family, all generations of that family. You mentioned Ford. Who else to that list, without a doubt, was part of or is part of MKUltra mind control?
Yes, you're mentioning Democrats and Republicans. We all need to pay attention to that fact. The New World Order doesn't care about political parties, and that's why we have so much problem in this country right now. It's just used to divide the people.
Yes, it is.
And Trudeau's were involved in Canada, so we got a global effort going on here. And U.S. Senator Robert Byrd was my owner in MKUltra Mind Control. He was in office for over 50 years. He was third in line to the presidency many times. He was head of Senate Appropriations, which meant he decided where our tax dollars were going to be spent, and he made sure that that money was allocated for funding the New World Order. So
unbelievable. Obama,
yeah, just
Obama, without a doubt.
In key places.
Okay, and there's a lot more that we could go through. Right now, I have a poster on my back wall behind me. I should have more scripture verse on my wall, but in my office, I've got Spygate. If you guys do not have Spygate on your wall, you don't know how these bloodline families are connected, get that map. It's called Spygate. Google it. You'll find it, or go to DuckDuckGo if Google has already taken that information down. Okay. Kennedy assassination, I have to ask you, can you give me some bullet points on that? Because I've been studying that forever as well. What was the reason behind that assassination?
Kennedy was not involved in the New World Order. He was about national sovereignty, and he was going to dismantle the CIA for their MKUltra mind control.
Yes, he was. And the second that he made that announcement, days later, he
Yes.
was killed.
Yes.
Ooh, you're giving me chills today. Cathy, I love you. I love truth. I love when it gets out there to everybody and people can connect the dots. Okay, can you give us a glimpse of your childhood, what happened to you and where you got past and how that all worked? Like, were you with a certain person for a number of years and then your father would send you to someone else? How did that all work? And what are the red flags in case people tuning in right now might see those red flags in a child across the street or one of their own family members so they can help rescue?
We need to understand components of mind control so we can start recognizing it around us. And I think a really important key is that this so-called gender confusion is a pedophile agenda. It's a cover for pedophilia. When a child is sexually abused, it heightens sexuality, it confuses sexuality, it creates a dissociation where the child will stare off into space. They'll be looking into eyes of strangers, hoping someone will see that they need help, but they're not apt to be voicing a need for that. But if they're showing neon signs of abuse, when a child is so dissociative that they don't have conscious thought, they lose an ability to feel. And if they lose their ability to feel, oftentimes that results in piercings and tattoos. I'm not saying that's the way it is for everybody, but usually when we see that, it's a neon sign of abuse and they're saying, please help me. I can't feel. So these are little signs that we can start watching for. When children are saying that they have this gender confusion, we need to be looking at the parents. We need to be looking behind them, looking at the teachers, see who's involved, see who's around this child. And see, open our eyes to it, learn to listen deeply. PTSD Time to Heal, which is the healing methods Mark taught me, touches on how to listen deep enough to what's really being said so that we can actually reach out and start helping people. One of the best ways that we can help those who are mind controlled is to live our freedom and be the example, live love, have compassion, learn to listen. And understand.
Absolutely. More on the hell Cathy lived through right after a word from our sponsor. Anxiety is at an all-time high, causing restlessness and paralyzing panic attacks. There is hope, a revolutionary product that brings healing and relieves symptoms of anxiety by harnessing the body's own electrical fields in conjunction with a pre-programmed patch. The Restore Patch is an all-natural, drug-free, wearable patch, and it's risk-free with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Check out RestorePatch.com and get 10% off using promo code TINA at checkout. Stop feeling overwhelmed, fearful, and anxious with Restore Patch. Obviously, we have to do a part 2, but before we let you go with part 1 here, we want people to know about your trance movie.
My name is Cathy O'Brien, and I'm a survivor of MKUltra mind control. The MKUltra program was to ultimately control the minds of the population for implementing what Adolf Hitler first termed the New World Order. When girls reached age 30, they were murdered or they were sacrificed. I was going to be killed as well. I was to go out in a blaze of glory and be burned alive. I'm so fortunate that an intelligence insider who saw the kind of corruption that was going on in the highest levels of government decided to take action and rescued me and saved my life so that we could begin to expose what was being done.
So make sure you head over to the Trance website, trance-formation.com, to learn more about the movie, buy the DVD, get her books, read her blog, and stay updated about all she's doing to expose these dark secrets to the world. Once again, trans-formation.com. Cathy, phenomenal info. I'm glad you're going to be with us for part 2. People tuning in, make sure you share this message with the masses, because every child in America right now is under MKUltra mind control when they go to school every day, through their education system, through pop culture and entertainment. We're going to talk about more of that in a minute on part 2.